On fakeexist.com, Fred Turner said, "It's worth remembering that every time a new communications becomes popular, there's usually a moral panic. When the telephone was introduced in the 19th century, there was a widespread fear that it would decrease the authority of parents and that men would be entering the house through the telephone." Now, back then, that people were fearful of the invention of the telephone because people fear change and they fear what it could do to them. Right now, the SEC is experiencing similar reactions to the implementation of XBRL codification within financial statements. Before I begin my presentation, let me tell you some sources that I use. I use fakeexist.com, complianceweek.com, AICPA.org, EdgarOnline.com, 5forbusinesspeople.blogspot.com, 17conference.xbrl.org, and I interviewed my mom, Brenda Maldonado. The reason I'm here to talk to you is I'm talking to you about why it's necessary to be open to this new policy so that it can be used to its potential, as well as taking the time, I hope you take the time to see the advantage of it and see why it's so important. At the entrance of XBRL, people have been fearful of what it could do to financial reports, as well as what it's going to change with their costs and their within their business. And also people wonder why is it important and why is there a need for it. Well, there's a need for it because there is efficiency within the workforce of analysts, investors, auditors, and regulators needs to be more efficient, and people need to be able to get their work done faster and in a more efficient way, because we all know with inefficiency comes people frustrated and people agitated with the work that they're doing. As well as there's a need for accuracy within them so that financial statements can be accurate and what people report to the stock market can be accurate as well, and that people can trust them. On buyforbusinesspeople.blogspot.com, it said, "In recent years, regulatory reporting requirements such as Sarbanes-Oxley, which came about after the Enron fiasco, have raised the importance of reporting accuracy. Unfortunately, we live in a world where fraud is evident and that many people will go to any measures in order to get their company to the top. And this is why there is a need for more transparent financial statements, which XBRL will allow, as well as more efficient use of people's time." On AICPA.org, it said that this implementation of XBRL codification is a gradual process. It just started this year, and only companies that make $5 billion in profits a year will have to use this codification within their financial statements. But eventually, all publicly traded companies, people who file within on the stock market, will have to use XBRL within their financial statements. It's just that it's going to be such an expensive implementation that only the expensive companies are forced to do it right now, so that other companies can gain some capital. Now, who will benefit from XBRL? Analysts, investors, regulators, as well as auditors will benefit from this. They will better be able to assess the financial standing of the company at a quicker and more efficient rate. On EdgarOnline.com, they said that financial statements will be able to be compared to other financialists, as well as be able to be analyzed at 4 times faster than they would at the rate right now with the manual analysts and kings. I talked to my mom, Brenda Maldonado, who's an auditor for the state, and she discussed things that she has to do within her job and how she has to look at financial statements. And when I talked to her about XBRL, this is what she said. "If the companies that I audited used XBRL, I would better be able to assess financial statements at a quicker rate, and I would be able to avoid some testing that she has to do on a day-to-day basis, which would make her job easier and make the information more accurate so she wouldn't have to test it, which is what we are looking for with this XBRL codification." In high school, one of my teachers would assign us numerous problems to do for homework, and I would get back and I would tell her the next day that it took me a really long time to do the homework, and she would say, "Oh, that's right, I forgot to give you the tools to do it, or the formula to finish the problem." And it would have taken me a lot less time to do the homework if I had had the tools needed to complete it. And the SEC is trying to provide these tools necessary to analyze the financial statement and to make people's lives easier, as my teacher should have done before she assigned those homework assignments. Looking at the financial statement, you can understand, you can read what's on it. You can see the revenues, you can see the expenses, and you can see that net income is $500. Well, XBRL will make this data interactive and will allow us to use our financial statements in a more efficient, better way. For instance, computers cannot read this, but computers can read this, which is XBRL codification, and will allow the data to be tagged in a way that the computer can understand it, and you can use the computer as the tool it was meant to be. On the 17th conference at XBRL.org, it said that the SEC has seen success so far in its test of companies voluntarily filing their financials in XBRL codification. The SEC is not just demanding that we use this without any trials that have been run. It has been proven successful and an efficient tool that will change the life of financial statements, and that is why it's a smart choice that the SEC decided to implement this new codification. Now, some fears about XBRL. They fear that it will give the SEC too much authority. But as you saw in the financial statement, it doesn't change what you report. You're still seeing your revenues, expenses, and your net income. It's changing how you report it in a way that the computer can understand it and that you can use the computer as the tool it was meant to be, and will allow you to transfer data to the place that you need it to be, so it can compare different companies' financial statements and see which company is a better standing. Also, people are worried about how much it's going to cost. And I mentioned earlier that it is going to be costly, but in the end, the benefits will outweigh the cost, so that way it is a smart choice to implement this within your company. And if you are a company that makes more than $5 billion, you have to anyway. Now, how is this going to change the lives of investors, analysts, auditors, and regulators? Well, when receiving information from other people, that's what these people do. They receive information from companies. And in receiving information, I'm sure y'all have encountered this in your life. When you're trying to get work done and you get someone to send it, and you finally get it in your mail inbox, and you open it and it looks like this. It's in a format that's incompatible with your computer. And with the implementation of XBRL, this will no longer be a problem because the XBRL allows for the conversion of documents into HTML, PDF, as well as Excel spreadsheets. And will allow users to be able to receive the data and be able to use it. As you can see from this site, it said on Edgar Online, it says that for manual keying and analysis, it takes 8 hours to complete. Whereas with XBRL, it takes a mere 2 hours to complete, which think about the time this will save analysts, investors, and regulators. The accuracy in using manual keying and analysis is 66% accurate, which is, we need something so much more accurate than that in our world today with how much fraud there is. And with XBRL, it will allow for a 95% accuracy rate. In summary, you can see that XBRL is more accurate and more efficient way to report our financial statements, and also how revolutionary this tool is. So I encourage you to understand the policy and understand the SEC and what they were trying to do in implementing this. XBRL is the new technology that will change and improve our generation from the one in the past. One of the biggest improvements in the 19th century was the invention of the telephone, and now in the 21st century they are trying to implement this new XBRL codification, which will change our lives. So, let's not fear change, let's embrace it. Thank you.